What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey YouTube channel, episode 12 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Iacovone, joined as always by the one and only Jack Smith. And if you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure to smash the subscribe button, hit the alert so you guys never miss a show. For all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you're first in line when the newest episodes drop. If you're watching us live on Twitter, off of our Twitter page, do us a favor. Head on over to YouTube, give us a subscribe and a like, and maybe share the link on Twitter as well. Do us a solid. Jack, let's before we really get going here. We were off for a week last week. The Flyers were still playing, obviously, doing some traveling. Why don't you tell us? Speaking of traveling, why don't you tell us a little bit about our sponsor?
Well, Flyers fans, we've got something special for you today. Looking to take your game day experience to the next level? Then look no further than Fans of Philly. With over 14 years of experience, they're the go-to team for putting together an unforgettable travel package for die-hard Philly sports fans. Why Fans of Philly, you ask? Let me break that down for you. These guys have spent years building the best relationships with bars, hotels, teams, transportation, you name it. Every trip they plan gets better and better, and trust me, they'll make sure your experience is top-notch. Whether it's scouting out the perfect hotel, finding the hottest nightlife, or securing the best seats in the arena, Fans of Philly have it all figured out. And they'll make your next trip an absolute blast. So head on over to fansofphilly.com. That's fansofphilly.com, and book your next Flyers road trip today.
That was great stuff, Jack. And
Almost.
You had a perfect run going there, so it was bound to happen at some point.
I know.
But we'll chalk it up to taking a week off. We got you out of your rhythm.
Very upset, Jim.
Well, the good thing is we have about an hour left to bounce back from that, Jack. Don't be too hard on yourself here. We got a lot of good, positive things to talk about. Believe it or not, with the Philadelphia Flyers, who are 8-2-2 in their last 12 games. The way people are talking on the timeline, God forbid, you'd think that they were, off to the way that they started the season. Like, things are good. There are good things happening here with the Philadelphia Flyers, Jack. And let's kind of get to some of them. So I mentioned they're 8-2-2. Let's open the show with the big news, and that's Travis Sanheim and Travis Konecny. We think, because I don't know if it's been officially announced. Has it been? Have you seen anything officially, Jack?
Nothing official, just that they were congratulated for something at practice.
Yeah, a lot of the reporters, the beat guys were reporting that guys like Travis Sanheim, Travis Konecny, and even Rasmus Ristolainen were getting some pats on the backs and a lot of attention during practice today. So that led to speculation that these three players may have made their respective national teams for the upcoming Four Nations tournament. I think that's in January or February, Jack. Do you know when that takes place?
I just looked earlier today, but of course I forget. I will look that up real quick.
Yeah, I put you on the spot there. I haven't looked to see when the tournament's going to play, obviously, but I've been following along to see, who could potentially make the roster. And there have been, I guess, scouts or representatives, if you will, from each of these nations at Flyers games, presumably to watch players like Sanheim and Konecny and Ristolainen. So really great honor to play for the country. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. No, it's in February. February 17th seems to be the first game, Canada versus Finland. And the that's the games in the United States. The international games, it starts as early as February 12th. Sorry about that. I don't know why that would be listed first. So about early to mid-February is what you're looking at.
Yes, I mean, that's pretty awesome. I have to imagine that means a lot specifically to the players.
Oh, for sure. Especially if you make Team Canada. I mean, that's tough. That is tough. It's like Risto was expected to make the team. That Finland's not too hefty on the back end. Couple that with his really good play this year, that was kind of like a shoe-in. But TK and even more so Sanheim, there was every list I saw made of like potential Canadian rosters. Some of them had Konecny. I didn't see any that had Sanheim. And I was like, so disrespectful. You know what I mean? I get it. He hasn't been there before. He's having a good season. I'm glad that the coaches or the selecting officials realize that, like, we're going to go by this year and not just track record. So he absolutely deserves it. And yes, it definitely means a lot, especially for Team Canada.
Yeah. And let's talk about, excuse me one sec.
Oh boy.
Sorry. Yeah. Something went down the wrong pipe there. So really, I'll speak from my perspective on this because depending on how far our viewers and listeners have been watching our show, there have been periods throughout each of these players' careers where I was flat out just out on both of the Travi. And I'll go back and talk about how Travis Konecny, remember the bubble days when, if you listen to this show, whenever Konecny would come up, my whole thing was how many goals does he have in the playoffs? How many goals does he have in the playoffs? And, while the Flyers haven't made the playoffs since, I think it's pretty clear to see he's a different player now. He's the player that we all thought I think, could have been, and maybe even more, right? Would you say that that's correct, Jack?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you mentioned being out on the Travises. I mean, I don't think I was as bad as you, but I was definitely out on Sanheim. I was upset that trade with St. Louis didn't go down. Holy cow, do I feel different about that. I was furious with Fletcher for signing him when he did, because you were supposed to evaluate the player, but they might have moved him for peanuts if he had no trade value. So, I mean, I guess that kind of worked out. And then Konecny is this team's – Michkov may be the most talented player on the team and eventually will be the best player, but right now TKA is hands down the best player on this team. He's ridiculous. Like, say what you will about the re-signing of the contract, he's been phenomenal this year, and I think that's really good for Michkov's development. And we'll see what happens. I mean, the more I look at that contract and how he plays, maybe it won't be an issue down the pipe. Maybe he'll be part of something. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it was Jordan Hall who posted a stat, and I don't remember the exact date in October. For some reason, October 13th is kind of stuck in my mind. But TK is top 5 in the NHL in points since October 13th, something like that, which, when you're in the top 5 in points in the NHL, there's some big dogs up there. So, and he's playing like that. Like he's the driver of the bus, if you will, most nights. He's not, getting the Voracek second assist kind of points. You know what I mean? Like he's the guy driving everything. Like the overtime goal that Michkov scored the other night where Konecny, gets back on D, intercepts the pass. And, while he's falling down or while he's down, in desperation, somehow gets the puck out to Michkov. For me, is like a microcosm of the kind of player that Travis Konecny is. He's going to give it all for his team. And, Michkov will get all the accolades and the credit, for scoring the goal, third overtime goal for a rookie. I think that's he's in there with some pretty big names there. But I think we need to look at TK. And I think he had the primary assist on each of Michkov's last 2 overtime goals, even. I'm not sure if we were able to – actually, the episode's named Cold Blooded. That's where the quote came from, the Chicago game. Without that pass from TK, like Michkov didn't have to do anything there. He just had to make sure he put it between the pipes. TK, the way he passed that puck, sauced it just ever so much over that defenseman's stick and right onto Michkov's stick. He deserves a hell of a lot of credit for what's happening right now with the Flyers.
Was at that game. That was fantastic. What a way to end the game. It was perfect. So, yeah. And then the pass he makes against the Blues is that like out of control. Like, it's just ridiculous. I love when it's a shame they can't be on the same line more often. But when, for the first time in a long time, like when we have overtime, I'm like, if the Flyers don't fart and fumble with the puck, like they could be lethal. And when they're on. And it's a lot of Konecny and Michkov. So that's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And so let's talk about Travis Sanheim a little bit, because all the way up to the beginning of last year, I was out on Sanheim. I was upset that they signed him to a long-term deal. And last year he started to turn heads a little bit, and it seemed like he was, turning into a different player. I'm not sure anybody could have expected the Travis Sanheim that we're seeing this season. I posted a stat the other day. He's 5th overall in time on ice for defensemen in the NHL. And to me, that shows how reliable he's been. You can put him out on the ice for the amount of time that he's out there. And I feel confident when Travis Sanheim is on the ice. I almost feel like Sanheim's out there, something good's going to happen, whereas in the past, it's not that I have thought something bad was going to happen, but it's like, okay, he's a guy. He's out there kind of thing. Now it's like, ooh, Sanheim's over the boards. Let's see what we're going to do here. You know, like you're excited to watch Travis Sanheim, which is blowing me away a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and I was going to throw him in when we were talking about overtime, but he seems to be the third man on that unit as well, and they've done nothing but produce in overtime when it matters. I mean, and he made Team Canada. That's outrageous to where we were with him, to him making Team Canada, whether you think he should or shouldn't. I think most Flyers fans thinks he should, is incredible. Like, that's kind of not exactly when we were talking about players having a better season going into the season. We didn't really discuss Sanheim. We were looking more for the youthful guys, but god damn, for a team that needed defense to stabilize some stuff for our three-headed monster at goalie, he has been everything you could possibly ask for and more.
Yeah, and there are some people in the comments who sort of felt the same way with Sanheim. Just impressed. And you mentioned the overtime. He's built for the overtime. He's built for when there's space on the ice, 4-on-4, 3v3. That's when he really excels, and he's fun to watch. You'll see people, I guess, on the timeline still for some reason say Sanheim deserves power play time, and it just honestly it doesn't work like that. He's not built for the power play. Doesn't have the skills necessary for the power play, in my opinion. Let him get the 5v5 time and let him get the PP time. I'm pretty sure he's up there with I don't know how many shots you want him to block. This is your number 1D we're talking now. But put him on the PK. Put him, he's your best 5v5 defenseman as well. I don't think Rasmus Ristolainen's too far behind, and we could talk about him at some point. Well, we got to talk about him because he made Team Finland. But Sanheim is just playing out of his mind, and it doesn't look like it's just a flash in the pan kind of thing either, which is just, it's so crazy to me.
That's what they say about defense. I mean, it's if all the positions, with goalie being complete, roll of the dice, defense typically takes the longest. And he's been through a lot of turbulent times, and maybe the turnover in the locker room and taking a leadership role and resetting things. And God forbid I say this, the coaching really set him up to get the most out of him, which is funny. It's something Torts has always been known for. But, this is two guys that you didn't think would jive, especially after trade rumors came out with him. You thought his ego would be crushed, and he's completely gone the other direction, and it's an absolute pleasure. Yeah, for sure. And so let's talk about the other guy who I think should be his D partner. And there's a comment here somewhere from Fancy. I think they should split up Sanheim and York. And so let's talk about Rasmus Ristolainen for just a minute here. In my opinion, hands down, he is their second best defenseman this year. We know the whole, they rounded out his D game. They changed him into a new player. He looks great. I think he's without a doubt a top 4 defenseman. There are, some people that still think he's a third pair guy. I disagree. I'll be upset when they actually do trade him. I think he's going to be traded. But a few weeks ago, if you watch some of these interviews, Brad Shaw said that they want him to possess the puck more, or he didn't exactly say be more offensive, but he was giving hints that we want to see more offense from Risto. And in the last 2 to 3 weeks, you're seeing Risto clean outlet passes. You're seeing him carry the puck through the neutral zone. You're seeing him pinch in offensively. He's at one point, he had 4 assists in 4 games. And in my opinion, he is the second best defenseman on the Flyers in terms of defense and offense. If he can continue to get to be more comfortable the way he's playing now, look out, man. If he can put the offense and the defense together, he really could be a problem, And I know he's got 2 years left, and it's unfortunate that he's been here for however many years, and we're just now getting to this point. And it seems like he's going to be moved, and the Flyers have a log jam on D. But I'm not sure that they have a player like Rasmus Ristolainen looks like he could be. And that sounds crazy to say because I'm not married to the guy. I'm just really enjoying watching him play hockey. What do you think, Jack? You don't think they have somebody coming up like Risto? You haven't seen Hunter McDonald yet, man. You're going to see a lot of them one day, whether you like it or not. Yeah, no, I get your point, because one of the things he did early in the season when he, it took me a while to be swayed, because when he first came here and what we gave up and the re-signing of him, everything was no, this is horrible, not good. And this is a credit to Brad Shaw, because he's one of the first defensemen I think we've seen when the new regime took over really start to turn it around. He spent a lot of time injured. So for me, it was sample size. And there wasn't enough. Everything we had seen under the new regime for the most part was good. It was good Risto. But I was still very it's not enough games for me, because he got hurt. And then he was hurt all of last year, basically. So I didn't even know how he was going to come into this season. So outside of a bad decision during a defensive 5-on-3, I don't trust many more players with the puck than I do with him. I swear. And it's not so much stick handling, although sometimes it is, but it just seems like he's always making the right outlet pass or pass to keep it away from the other team. He doesn't pinch at the wrong times. He's doing certain things. His decision making has done a 180 for me. And I don't know if he's just playing with confidence. I don't know if it's just the coaching, but he has really turned into a much better overall defenseman in that regard. Things that I killed him for, we all killed him for before. But you put on top of that how aggressive he plays and how he will bully other players on the other team a lot, which is what you want to see. I mean, it's beautiful. It's Flyers hockey, and it's just, he's not in any way a net negative to this team like he had been in the past. And he is this season. He is the second best defenseman, mostly because York has missed some time here. But Risto has really done everything they've asked of him and more, to the point where it sounds like teams are already calling about him. There was a rumor about Nashville, and it sounds like if they do trade him, it'll be closer to the deadline. And we were hoping to get rid of him and just give up very little. We actually might get something back at this point. I don't know how you feel about trading him. I still would. But I guess what you said about having nobody else on the team, I guess you're a little iffy on pulling that trigger. If you were presented with a deal where you get off of that contract scot-free.
See, I don't have a problem with the contract. He's making $5 million as a top 4D. You know what I mean? That's what a top 4D makes. And then the cap's going up. You know what I mean? So I think we're so married to the fact that it was such it was a compounded mistake on top of a mistake that we're still kind of $5 million for Risto for, I think it was 5 years, whatever it was, stinks. But I don't think he's the same guy that signed that original contract. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm looking at him as the player that he is now. And I believe he should be playing at the very minimum second pair. If he's third pair making $5 million, that's not great. You don't want, you want your third pair combined, I think, to be making $5-6 million. But he should be on the second pair. And potentially, if he's matched up with Sanheim, that is potentially a top pair, in my opinion, the way that they've been playing. So right now, like I said, if the right offer comes along, I'll be upset, because I'm starting to really like watching Ristolainen, like I'm saying. But I understand that it might be something that has to be done as well, because when he turns 30, 31, I'm not sure if you don't think that you're going to be getting the same offer as you are now, then go for it. But I'll be upset at the same time.
Yeah, and some of the chat seems to be echoing that right now. If this was his play going forward, and this was the player he was, I don't even think we're having this conversation. The only thing I will say is he could regress. I don't think that'll happen. I have no reason to believe that'll happen. He is 30 years old. I believe it's 3 more years at 5.1 mil. I don't exactly know if he's a part of the future in that regards, just the way maybe you have things lined up. He'll be 33, 34 years old, and you're looking at re-signing him, and based on his size. And he's only really played 35% of the game since he came to the Flyers. He's dealt with some injury history. That doesn't get better as you get older. So there's that. Do you just, hey, this miracle happened, we're just gonna move on. Thank you for your service, and we're out of it. Or do you roll the dice? Hey, he stays this good and this healthy for this long. I guess for me, it's going to come down to the offer. Because it's if he was 26 years old, forget that. Forget it. He's 30, going to be 31. At the beginning of next year, but still, that's something. I would be very curious what the trade market looks like for that. I think a lot of teams are echoing it's not a bad contract anymore. And God forbid we see this guy in the playoffs one year. Doesn't matter who it's with. Just Lord knows So
like the unicorn now, yeah.
But yeah, the one thing for sure is if they do move him, they're not retaining anything. We're getting something. That's nice. So I'll just take that.
Yeah, if they retain on Risto, I'll be a little upset there because you don't need to. But I wonder if him having the 2 years makes it harder to make a trade at the trade deadline. Because if it was in his last year, you kind of split the cap money, and it's really, or you could even retain more of it or whatever. You know what I mean? So I wonder if it makes things a little trickier. But you mentioned a team like Nashville, so maybe a team like that is a better fit as opposed to a team whose roster's already set basically, who may not have the cap.
And there's just teams out there that got to get it rolling. Nashville is a perfect example. That team was about to go into a rebuild, pivoted for now, made some signings, traded a hell of a prospect because they re-signed their own guy, and they need a swift kick in the ass. And the owner and the GM, who's now Barry Trotz, has echoed that. The coach, they didn't fire the coach yet, right? I don't want to throw that out there, but like that has been discussed. Like there could be, if they can't get things going. I'm actually not sure if they looked that up.
No, they didn't fire him. I don't think Trotz knows what he's doing. No, they really screwed themselves because they should have tore it down and they overachieved last year, and then they signed a bunch of older players.
Bought into it.
Yeah.
So usually the coach is the first head to roll. I thought maybe I just read discontent. Yes, Andrew Burnett. I believe he sat in for the Devils or something for a while. So yeah, no, he seems to be fine. But like a team like that looking to re-energize everything they've gone for could make a trade like that or an offer, maybe offer more than you're hoping for. Makes a lot of sense. It's a good defensive team, and he can throw the body around. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I don't think you're going to do anything like that now. But it's there's going to be teams. They're already asking. What does that tell you? They're already asking. And the Flyers are trending upwards. You don't typically do that with a team trending upwards. So. We'll see. I don't know what the get is, but I know we're not giving anything, including money.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of defensemen talk in the chat here, so let's get to that while talking about the David Jiricek trade at the same time, right? Because I think the initial reactions on the Twitter timeline were people were upset and angry at Danny Briere for
you knew this was going to happen. You knew this was going to – if he didn't bring home Jiricek, people are going to be pissed. What made it worse is the trade itself. Like when you look at the draft assets that the Flyers have, and it's like the prospect that they threw in was not a grade A prospect by any means. So it's like I could see people – well, he couldn't beat that trade. He's no balls. He can't do this, blah, 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 blah. And then it was reported that the players that Columbus – only wanted were guys like Foerster and maybe Bonk or something like that. Like nobody if he made the trade with first round picks involved, I think people would be just as mad. Whether you believe that or not, because the team kind of came out and said that's up to you. Maybe that's the division tax, I guess they're talking about. Maybe they just didn't want to trade him within the division, so they asked for an outlandish deal and just went elsewhere. I don't know. But this is not a deal. And I'm somebody saying that I want to see him make some moves. This roster has a logjam all over. Like, Hell's Grange just got sent down because they have 3 goalies. We want to see more of these defensemen who keep coming up are looking good. Andre, how's Jamie Drysdale going to, work his way back into the offense? Tuomala, how's he going to get called up? He's doing well with the Phantoms. There's log jams everywhere. I would love to see a trade be moved. But when I look at the context of everything involved with this trade, it's not something I'm losing sleep over. Would I've liked to? Eventually, they're going to have to bite the bullet and make a trade like this when a name like this is available. Eventually, but it doesn't have to be today. It doesn't have to be that player. So I'm not going to kill him for it. I would have liked to have seen it. But again, it's nothing to really lose your mind over. Yeah.
And so I have whenever something like this, a trade like this goes down, I always pause for a second, right? Because I believe that, we have reactionary thoughts and then we have our true thoughts. Right. And your reactionary thought is not always what you really believe. It's just, oh my God, I'm angry. And then you ever notice that you'll get really angry about something. And then 20 minutes later, you cool off and you're like, this really isn't that big of a deal. You know what I mean?
You get worked up. Yeah. You get worked up.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people had built up frustrations from other things. But my first instinct was, all right, let's try to put myself. Let me try to play GM. And if I'm the Flyers and Columbus comes calling and, they lay out here that they want a first, second, third, fourth, and one of your top defensive prospects for Jiricek. Our defensive prospects, aside from if you want to exclude Zeev Buium, right? So they're not getting Buium from Minnesota, and they're not getting Bonk from the Flyers. So they want next tier defensive prospect in return. I'm going to assume, because that's what they ended up trading for. Damon Hunt is a player that can flex into the Blue Jackets' third pair this season if needed. 22 years old, left-handed defenseman, drafted in the same draft as Emile Andre. If you look down the Flyers prospects, their next level prospects under Bonk are Emile Andre. You mentioned Helge Grans, Jamie Drysdale's. He's a project prospect, but still a prospect. Are you moving any of those guys with the first, second, third, and fourth for David Jiricek? I don't think that I would.
Not with the first, second, and all that stuff. No.
Yeah. And so what it looks like to me is nobody wanted to pay up what Columbus was looking for, and they took the best offer, right? Because there were people out there that were like, oh, that's all they had to give up?
Yeah.
And you don't think there were teams out there that, you don't think the Flyers were sitting there like, oh, we offered Emile Andre, and they just said no. They wanted the Flyers good players, and the Flyers said, we don't need to do this deal.
No.
We don't have to do this.
Right.
We'll give you this, and if you don't want it, all right, well, good luck.
Yeah, and it just irritates me when I see they didn't come away with the player, and the Hextall comparisons come out, the Fletcher. It's like, Jesus Christ, because he didn't do this. Like,
it's perpetually miserable people.
Yes. It just always, and people getting so angry with Briere. I'm like, the team has played better this year and last year than it ever did when they were actually trying to win, except for maybe in 2019, right before COVID. Like, and we're pissed off at Danny, maybe because we're hurting our draft pick. We have 3 first-round picks, 3 high second-round picks. We have Michkov here now. We have all our goalies are good for right now anyway. Like, Sanheim just completely turned his career around. TK's a legitimate stud. Like, there's a lot of great pieces here, and we have ammunition to make some things happen. Just because it didn't happen yet doesn't mean he's Hextall or he's Fletcher or he'll never do anything. And that's where I agree with you. I'm like, I want something to happen, but it doesn't have to happen. That second part, people can't grasp. And with something like this, if they feel like something slipped through their fingers, they're like, well, we had somebody else in there. We'd have acquired this guy. It's just silly. It's just silly, man. I really don't like the fact that, like, Columbus seems like they're trying to treat their players like their old coach would. And you got to earn your spot. You got to put the time in. And, that didn't jive with Jiricek. It really didn't, So if they're treating him like a guy like who does that sound like? You got to earn your spot. You got to put your time in. Who does that sound like? Who does that remind you of?
Player that we didn't want. And then all of a sudden we want this player.
But the play or the culture that Columbus is trying to emulate is Tortorella. Like, he was their old coach. They're doing those things. I don't like when that kind of stuff, like you were saying, comes from the player. But if he is in a situation like that where things are not going well, bringing him into this situation with the same exact culture and the guy, Tortorella, who it's one of the figureheads of that culture, you got to prove it. You don't just get it. That wouldn't go very well either. So hell no am I giving up a lot for something like that. If they had given up a significant amount and Jiricek would have come here and been that guy like that, that could have been an absolute disaster. All of a sudden, we're trading him for even less or something like that. So it's not something to lose your mind over.
I like this comment here, and I'm not worried about the number 1 center because we got Morgan Frost, so we're fine.
Yeah, baby.
We've had our number 1 center on the roster for the last 5-6 years, according to everyone on Twitter.
Jesus Christ.
So that trade. I'll be honest. If they did trade for Jiricek, I can't honestly sit here and say that I would be excited. I can't. I would rather them go out and trade for a center. They have defense. How do we know They already, in my opinion, they already have a top pair. Like, well, I don't want to say top pair. Travis Sanheim certainly looks like he could be a top pair defenseman. Cam York, I don't think is a top pair defenseman. I think he's more a second pair guy. I think Sanheim should be on the left side. I don't know if Jiricek can be that workhorse top pair defenseman. And people are in the comments talking about his speed and his skating.
Injuries? Injuries early in his career?
I know that he's a 6th overall pick. The Flyers passed on him to take Gauthier, and he's got good AHL numbers.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you about David Jiricek. I'm not going to sit here and lie to everyone and say, oh, I've watched him, and this is a guy the Flyers need, because I haven't watched him.
Not to mention, I know there's a bit of a logjam on defense in Columbus, but it's Columbus. If you're really all that good, you're probably playing for the team. So, I mean, it's nothing to lose your mind over. And the name that what I want them, when I see this guy is traded and it's not to Philly, that I'm not going to be upset with Beer. I'm just going to be really upset. That's probably Rossi for me. Like a center that we need, that people in Minnesota can't understand why he's like on the rumor mill, like outside of maybe they have too much center depth. Like that's the guy I would really like. I'm in on for Philly. And you know why? Because we need centers. We have plenty of defensemen. We have 3 first-round picks. This is not something I'm losing my mind over. If you look at the evidence, it makes sense why this didn't go through. You kind of broke it down earlier with the trade offers they were looking for, what they wanted, with the Flyers being in the division. It was probably never going to happen unless it was for something you're not comfortable giving up. And ultimately, he said no. That's fine. Use those assets for Rossi. That's what I look at.
Yeah, I would be shocked. The Minnesota is like a top 5 team in the NHL right now. I think. I could be wrong. But I would be shocked if they moved on from Marco Rossi.
That's what their own beat writers are saying. But apparently there's something about him, and they think who's their GM, the old player,
Bill Guerin.
Yeah, they're saying that like he might have an issue with his size or something. Like it's one of those weird things, and we know that teams do get funny like that sometimes. And all of a sudden, a player's traded when they have no business being traded. So why? So
I guess if they're well, here's what I'll say. The teams that have won the cup more recently, they usually have, I think, bigger centers. I'm not sure how. I know Rossi's not the biggest guy, but I'm trying to figure out why they would move him.
It's their own beat writers that are like complaining. Yeah. Like, so like they're ticked off about it too. But if for whatever reason they're hell bent on moving them, please take. No, in my opinion, I'm sorry, no pun intended, a flyer, please, for the love of God. These guys should not be made available. Sounds like a player we would love. We need the position. Come on.
Italian.
Of course. Yes.
And this says he was born in Austria, so he's Austrian, but Italian.
You just take what you can get, huh?
Yeah. All right. What else did we have here? Okay, so we have here that Helge Grans was sent down, and it certainly looks like Sam Ersson's going to return. I think I saw Charlie O'Connor report. I could be wrong. It was one of those guys, one of the beat guys or girls posted that Ersson will return on Thursday. And are the Flyers going to roster 3 goalies, or will Kolosov, who has played very well, I think he's got over a 900 save percentage in his last 3 starts, will Kolosov be sent back to Lehigh Valley? Jack, what are your thoughts on the 3 goalies, and should Sam Ersson jump in right away?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, man. I don't know. Everybody's played well enough to play at the NHL level. It sounds like they're going to keep rolling 3 for at least right now. From what I understand, Torts is not happy about that, but like some kind of resolution. But, Ersson's not going anywhere. You really can't send Kolosov back after what happened this offseason, this preseason, and then with his play on top of that. And then Fedotov's turned things around as well. So how do you look any of them in the eye and send them down? But at the same time, it's not a good idea to carry 3 guys. So I really don't know what they do. Man, it's like, do they consider trading somebody? Like, is that like something you could consider? Like, I tossed this idea around in my head, and I don't think they should trade Ersson. I think he's the most sure thing they have of the 3. And he's the most talented, playing the best right now, the best player, the best goalie right now. Kolosov, I think, has too much potential. And then I look down the pike, and you got Goinson and Zovregan. Why, and then Fedotov's 28 years old. So if I was considered to trade somebody, I would look into moving Fedotov, because I don't think it's a good idea to send anybody down. I think if you sent Fedotov down, I guess there's a chance he could even be claimed. I mean, the contract's a little hefty for him, but he's still not that bad. I could see it if the team's desperate enough. It doesn't have to give anything up. I mean, I didn't Ersson, no way. It's him. It's either Kolosov or Fedotov. But Kolosov could realistically turn around and ask for, just say, I'm going back to Russia. Like, that could happen. Like, are you going to risk that?
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry, I was reading this comment here, Jack. I'll ask you. So Vinny chimes in. Would you trade Sam Ersson, Cam York, Morgan Frost, and a first-round pick to Los Angeles for Quentin Byfield?
Oh, man. But I got to see.
That would solve your goalie conundrum.
And get you a hell of a player in return, huh? Only 22 years old.
So he replaces Frost right away in the lineup, and I would assume that the first would be one of the later first. Vinny, since we're talking about this, maybe you could clarify that.
I would hope.
And then Cam York, I know everybody loves. A lot of defensemen like him around the NHL. Flyers have guys, in my opinion, that can replace him now.
Stats are I know there was looking like there could be a breakout, 55 points last year. He's got 3 goals this year, 8 assists.
Oakham's comment cracks me up. That's a lot to give up for a left wing.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a lot to give up for a big swing. Taking a big swing. But again, if it was a center,
it's a lot of roster players. Yeah.
How good do you think Byfield is? I mean, it looked like he was going to break out, but he's got 3 goals this year.
Yep.
And he's listed as a right wing.
I haven't watched too many Kings games, so
you're giving up potentially a number 1 goalie, at least a hell of a backup, a pretty good number 2 defenseman in York. Frost is whatever. First still holds value just for Byfield. That's a lot. If Byfield was more proven, 22 years old, he's got he's on pace this year for another probably a 60-point season, maybe, but I don't know. 3 goals, 11 assists in 25 games. It's not exactly, and that's a team trying to win now. It's not development years for them. He is only 22, but it's tough.
Talented player. Like I said,
so is Frost.
haven't watched a lot of Kings games, so can't really give an honest opinion there.
Yeah, same.
So it makes it. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, for the Kings and the Flyers. It just looks like a lot to give up. A lot of roster players to give up for Byfield.
That's a lot.
You don't usually see 3 roster guys going. Yeah,
and
but those are positions that the Flyers have jams in D and goalie, and then you're sending a replacement guy in Frost. And I think LA prefers Byfield to play center. Maybe, I don't know if he is not playing center out there, but you're getting a replacement guy in Frost, and that's an interesting scenario for sure.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
All right. What else we got here? So 3 goalies, 3-headed monster. It'll be interesting to see how they deploy these guys.
And your boy got sent down because of that. Technically, they don't have a spot for Hell's Bronze.
He sure did, and he played his ass off while he was up here. I got to say, not even I expected to see him play that well with the Flyers.
He put himself back on the prospect map because I think fans, especially the preseason, we had our ideas of what we liked, and he probably jumped everybody. And if it wasn't for Andre playing, he could have jumped him too. But Andre's next level right now. I'm not saying that, but he came up and took advantage of the situation. Adder's been traded. Jennings just the guy. He could be out of here the next day. Nobody would notice. McDonald, they didn't shove Hunter McDonald down our throats. And he didn't come up because he was next in line. He actually played well. But I was a little shocked. But he's right back in the mix now. And that's another reason I look at the logjam on D. They're trying to get Drysdale back to draw back in. You're benching Zamula. You're benching You're sending down Grands. You're going to have to bench somebody else. If everybody was theoretically healthy, and then you want to see what else you have, they pretty much think Bonk's going to push next year. Well, then who's moving? Andre makes the team. Grands is sniffing around. Does that force them to get rid of Zamula, or are they trading somebody else? That's another reason why I think Risto does go to trade deadline. But ultimately, we'll see. But there's a logjam all over, except for center. That's it. Every position except for center.
Yeah.
So something's got to give.
I'll agree. It does make sense if you are doing a true rebuild and whatever, and this is going to be a sort of a drawn out thing instead of a quick turnaround thing. It does make sense to trade Risto. It's interesting for Grands. I know his current contract is up after this year. I think he's still an RFA. So I saw the call-up opportunity as a chance to see, okay, what do we have in this guy? And I would like to see more of him. I'm not sure if we'll see that. A lot of mentions of Drysdale in the chat here, and I don't think they need to rush with Drysdale. I don't think he's actually hurt. I think they're bringing him along, like kind of what we've been talking about, Jack. I think he's a project, and they don't necessarily need him in the lineup right now, so they're taking their time. He's getting the practice reps. I don't know, maybe he still needs to be acclimated. He's learning the system more 5-on-5 and what have you. The Flyers are in a really good spot defensively right now, where they don't need to rush Drysdale back in to the lineup. You know what I mean? They can take their time, be patient, work out the kinks, and then get them back when the time is right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely it does. In the back of my mind, I had always said this season was going to be a little bit of a pass for Drysdale based on, everything he went through with the trade and the injury and the surgery. So we knew this was going to be slow. And then when you consider the logjam, especially now, Andre and Grands playing well, and Risto and Sanheim playing out of their minds, York already being good. Excuse me. Sealer's a steady Eddie. How do you fit all these guys in? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, you're going to need some trades anyway. It does scare me a little bit. It sounds like it's like Drysdale went through amnesia or something. They're going to, he's going to practice first, play some 5-on-5, and then try it for real. It's like, oh, gee, how far back is this guy? But at least they're in a situation where they can do that. And as long as the player's on board, he'll get his games here and there. They're going to really have to play some gymnastics. And I guess he'll draw back in more once he's here. He's probably going to get, a couple of healthy scratches, but they don't have that extra spot because they have 3 goalies, there's going to be some roster gymnastics going on for sure. And a trade would help a lot of that. It's not that type of year where you typically see trades go down. I believe if a player is traded this time, there's a lot of issues with the team in the locker room. And maybe one team is trying to turn their season around and jolt the rest of the team. Well, you weren't doing that with the Flyers, even if they were still losing. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I do feel like something really should happen.
Yeah, I think they're in a good spot. They're starting to win again. I mentioned at the top of the show, 8-2-2 in their last 12 games. That's a very good record.
Yes, sir.
They probably could have won another 1 or 2 games in that stretch. To tell you the truth,
a lot of overtimes.
Yeah. So they're in an interesting spot. They are currently in a playoff position as well, which is kind of blowing my mind. They're tied with the Rangers, who suck, by the way.
You were extra hard on the Rangers.
Dude, because they suck. They're such a fraud. They're such a fraud team. Terrible 5-on-5. Flyers didn't. You know how the Flyers beat them? They didn't give them a chance to score on the power play because they didn't give them a power play. And if the Rangers don't get power plays, they ain't scoring goals. And so they suck. They're a fraud team. They can score on the power play, and the goalie can, if the goalie can stand on his head, that's how they beat you. They're not a good hockey team. And I've been saying that for 2-3 years now. But the Flyers are finally good enough to show. They should have beat the Rangers a few times last year. Shesterkin just stood on his head. The Flyers exposed them, I thought, in at least 3 out of the 4 games last season, or however many times they played. And then thoroughly outplayed them, I thought, this game. And, it just so happened the Flyers have a goalie that can make big saves now, too, in Fedotov. So man, that was sweet watching all those blue jerseys walk out the exits with a minute left in the game after TK scored that goal, made it 3-1.
They showed that on TV. It was awesome.
I loved it.
They had
man.
been coming in. Half those fans won't even be watching a team when they have to rebuild.
No, they won't. Cockroaches. Well, they all came out of the woodwork when the Rangers got good, and then, unfortunately, they've been good for a while now. But
you have to explain half their team to them too. By the way,
what's that? Oh yeah, yeah, it's bad.
I don't know.
I don't know who's worse, Devils fans or Rangers fans. They're both.
Well, there's more Rangers fans, so they're more of a pest.
Yeah.
Devils fan about it is about as real as the Jersey Devil.
You know what else? And let me get this off my chest, because there are some away fans that bring their home arena traditions to let's say when they travel to Philly. I've noticed this during the national anthem, when Lauren Hart will be singing, her national anthem or whatever. And I guess in, let's say, Carolina, when they sing Rocket, Red Glare, whatever, they all scream red because their team wears red. You're not in Carolina. Leave your traditions at home. You're a guest in another arena. And the Rangers fans did some shit during the national anthem. Dude, when you're home, do whatever the hell you want. When you're somewhere else, shut the fuck up during the national anthem. That's all I'm saying.
It is amazing. Those are the same people who do that shit. When somebody, like a Phillies fan, starts something with them, the first ones to cry about it.
Yeah.
Put it all over Twitter. First ones. Yeah. They're all frauds.
I just had to get that off my chest because it bothers the hell out of me. Like if I'm in New York and I have some weird Flyer tradition, I'm only going to do that tradition at home. I'm in your house, do your thing. So I just wanted to bring that up because it's something that's been bugging me for a little bit.
I love it. Like everybody has their kinks, man. I go off on usually the Penguins because they're a joke franchise no matter who they have. So anyway, we'll be here all night if we start this. So let's not.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to read that comment?
Yeah, Benit coming up. I think Risto for Perfetti makes sense as the Jets have a lot of young center prospects and they need to get players with term as nobody signs as UFA in Winnipeg. That last line is very true. They either have to overpay or draft because it is tough to keep anybody there. What has Perfetti been up to? I know Winnipeg's been damn good.
He's been better this year than he's been last year. He's got a few multi-point games. He's on my fantasy team, so that's why I know that. But I think he's a few points under point per game.
6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points in 25 games. Plus 11. Plus 11. Yeah, I mean, shit. How much? I think I would do that in a heartbeat.
See, I haven't watched.
And he's a center, baby.
Yeah, I'll take your guys' word for it. I've been pretty hyper focused on just the Flyers this year, where usually I think because the Flyers have been better, I've kind of zeroed in just on them as opposed to watching the NHL as a whole. I haven't paid attention to really any other teams, unless a rumor pops up. But I haven't watched any Winnipeg games. Couldn't tell you if Perfetti actually plays center, what he's doing up there, how he looks.
Well, he's listed. He's at least listed. That's a good start.
Yeah.
He says here, Occam Razor say he's small. He's 5'11", which in our ratings means he's 4'1". But I'm sure he's a little bit smaller than 5'11", but I could live with that. I mean, this is not. They're still. If we make a trade like that, we're still drafting for centers. We're still looking for a trade for centers. It's not like I'm checking it off the box anyway. Just get talent. And if they're playing them, they have them on their second line wing. Maybe you get more out of them playing his natural position. Maybe they are more likely to move him. I didn't see a whole lot of rumors involving Winnipeg. I thought that'd be closer to the trade deadline based on how good they've been playing this year. Are they not who's first in the league? It's like them and somebody else, isn't it? Oh, Panthers have been pretty damn good.
I thought the Wild were up there too. I don't know. See, I haven't even checked the standings.
Yeah, so there you go. The Wild they're tied. The Wild and the Jets are tied, but the Wild had one game in hand. But they have 18 wins on the season.
It's pretty good.
That's the most in the league that's the Jets. So damn, they are. They have 36 points, the Wild and the Jets. The next closest team is the Golden Knights. The Devils have 36. Oh, shit. Look at the Devils. Oh, man. See? Like you said, you weren't paying attention too much. I don't think I have either.
Yeah. It's sort of an interesting year.
It is. People have predicted the Devils pretty right so far. The Capitals, I did not have them doing what they were doing.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to.
Playing
Yeah,
well.
I have him in one league, and that has been beautiful.
Well, we're talking about centers and potential rumors here, and while we're on that topic, I did a video over the weekend. I put it out this morning with Naftali Clinton, Double Prospects, Ottawa. So I wanted to get an Ottawa perspective because, Flyers fans, it's easy to say we should trade for Shane Pinto and we should trade for Josh Norris, two potentially available centers from Ottawa. We should trade for Brady Tkachuk, and that's me. We should try to trade for Brady Tkachuk. And so I wanted to get Naftali on to give an Ottawa perspective and point of view and try to figure out what their team needs and what they're going through right now, kind of thing. You can get all of that in that video after this show. But since we're talking centers, Jack, I mean, Shane Pinto and Josh Norris. Pinto is obviously a guy that the Flyers were rumored to be involved in kicking the tires on, at least last season while he was suspended. He's a guy that I think is a creative center, not making very much money, while Josh Norris, I want to say, had a 30-goal season under his belt at some point. I know he's battled injuries.
35, I believe.
Somewhat recently. Yeah, 35-goal season.
He signed his deal that year and has been nothing but injured afterwards.
Yeah.
Hasn't been able to get the consistency going. He's one of the reasons why everybody thought, Ottawa was turning things around when they got Giroux. They had some, Jake Sanderson's a really nice defenseman they have other names there. Even when Chikrin was there, it seemed to be, it's the goaltending and maybe some of the defense. Well, they made some tweaks and you realize their forwards aren't as flawless as they thought they would be. Norris is big on that list, mostly because he's not there. And when he is there, he's not playing up to snuff. He's a guy that, you would like, but if he can't stay healthy, that's a hefty contract to take on. I believe it's 8-something for 5 more years.
Let me see. Thought I saw. Let me just make sure. Norris. There's a lot of Norrises. That's for sure.
They on defense. So
fucking thing.
Not their picks or.
No, I'll just look up Ottawa. I thought he was, but you're close. I thought I saw 7, but it could be 8. Let me see.
7.95.
Yeah, that's basically
so pretty much 8. Yeah, $50K away from 8, and he signed that until the end of the 27-28 season.
Yeah,
he is 25 years old, and he is a center, but that is a hefty contract to pick up. And if you're really buying in, people who want Tippett traded this year, I'm like, it's not happening. Nobody's committing to a player that you want to move because he's trending downwards for that long. So if you have him for another 5-6 years, sheesh, what's it going to cost to get him too? You're going to give up significant value to get this guy? I don't see how that makes sense. And you talk about rolling the dice. If you do make a move like that, you'd have to get him for pennies on the dollar. And even then you're still stuck with the contract if things go south. And he's the injured guy now, and Ellis comes off the book, and now he's the one going on it. I don't know. I don't see that happening. I'm more interested in Pinto. Where you think, as Vinit says here, a lot of people feel this way. Third line center at best, maybe another Lawton. I do think he's slightly better than that, but are you really paying up for slightly better? So I don't know. I know the Flyers are linked to Ottawa a lot. Nothing seems to get done. I don't know if there's a deal out there I really like based on who they're making available. I don't think Tkachuk's. Well, I did listen to your interview. I did feel this way before the interview. I didn't think Tkachuk was a legitimate, actually going to be moved. I just think he's their guy, and they'll build around him. I guess was it Ridley Gregg is the other guy? I believe his father works for the Flyers as a scout. He's a player we would like, but again, I don't think the ceiling is all that high. But look, I don't know what it would take to get these guys. I don't know if you're swapping players, if that really opens up anything, depending on what the deal would be. There are players I like over there, but I don't see any blockbuster deal happening with them. And if there was one, it probably would be Norris, and I think we'd be pretty upset.
Yeah, it would be. Well, so I'm curious, just for the sake of conversation, is this a deal that you wouldn't hate Risto going in?
Well, to be honest, for what? To quote Ricky Waters. It depends. I really don't care where we trade Risto. if we get money off the books and God forbid get something else back. That's I'm all for that. But what else are you giving up and what are you getting back? It's going to come down to that.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, sounds like they only need Aristo right now because Zub is out long term, who they just signed in the offseason. I forget how many years. So I'm not sure how much they're. It sounds like they want to do something, but I don't know how much they're going to be. Is it more for this year or is it long term? Like Aristo's got a couple years left, so I don't know. I don't even know if some of the fits make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure of the type of injuries that Norris has gone through. I could see that
shoulder, I believe, is definitely one of the concerning ones.
Yeah, and he's yet to play an 82 game season or even 70, I think, in a season. His high was 66 games when he scored 35 goals, and then it's 8, 50, and so far 24 this year. So there, that would be a pretty massive risk to take him on. Especially at 7.95. So yeah,
and it's like, is Ottawa? They look at if they're trading him for for a trade that you're like this value's not there. They're just trying to get out of the contract at that point. That's just a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like that either.
Yep, for sure. And then they'd be stuck with two injury-prone potentially centers in Couturier and Josh Norris. So. Yeah.
Don't roll that dice. There's plenty of other teams. Just look elsewhere.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's talk about the Flyers a little bit more here.
Who are
They're
they?
off until Thursday this week. When did they play? Saturday? Sunday?
Friday.
Monday, Tuesday,
Friday and Saturday.
Wow, 4 days off. Well deserved for the boys.
It's killing me.
Yeah, what are we supposed to be doing, right?
I mean, I've been really in on them this year. Like I try to watch every game best I can. I've gone above and beyond. It's because of Michkov effect, man. Like I'm just sending the family upstairs. Like I'll always be on, but this is like nobody talked to me. Like I'm in. I am in, and I haven't been like that in a long since before I was married. So yeah, I mean and they're not even supposed to do anything this year. So. It's been killing me. Like I'm like, they're not on tonight. What am I gonna do? Like that meme of what Narcos, where he's just sitting on the swing, staring out into the lake. So yeah, it's tough. So that's the rumors are the only thing keeping me alive right now. Loving this. It's a shame because I ultimately know nothing's gonna happen, at least until the trade deadline, which is far. But it's keeping me going, I guess.
Yeah. So here's my opinion on that. There's a lot of talk on the timeline that they need to do something, that Briere's asleep and yada, yada. They're 8-2-2 in their last 12 games. Tyson Foerster's finding his game. Bobby Brink has probably been their most consistent young forward. Morgan Frost has come back and scored 2-3 goals, whatever. Imagine if they moved one of those guys while the chips were down. Imagine if they had a reactionary GM. Oh, Tyson Foerster's not doing what he did last year. Ship him off. Oh, Morgan Frost, slow start again. Ship him off.
I'm glad you brought that up. I don't see
what the rush is.
I'm glad you brought that up. I know in the offseason I said I wanted some moves, but ultimately we could wait. I'm not jumping on they have to do something. The team is performing well. But the thing that you said that really jumped out to me was I did see a lot of Foerster chat. We could move him. All of a sudden people are already okay. It's like, Jesus Christ. The guy just had his first full NHL season. It's not like he signed a big deal we have to get out of or anything like that, or have to say, no, trade him while he still got value. He's still young. Yeah. My God, he's not even I was never considering trading him at any point. And they're just throw him in with the Brinks and the Farabys. That's a joke, man. That is reactionary, and I'm glad we don't have a GM like that. That's some scary shit. I don't even think Holmgren would do that. He probably would have moved guys like Frost and Farabee by now, but no, even he wouldn't pull the trigger that fast on somebody that young. I just blew my mind that people were already so I'm not everybody, but that name just popped up with those other names that fast. Come on.
My thing is, and maybe it's just me because I was always sort of against the rebuild thing, and now I've kind of embraced it, and look, I understand a rebuild and the concept and what goes into it, and how like I'm there. Like I'm like, all right, well, we're in it. Part of a rebuild is allowing players to develop. And they're not all going to, he scores 20 goals in his first season. He's not going to be a 30-goal scorer in his second season. More times than not. It's, sometimes, Jack, I think you're a big proponent of this. All development is not always linear. Is that what you say?
Correct.
And sometimes guys take a step back before they take another step forward. The league's not as easy as they made it seem the first year. I don't know what the hell it is.
Well, look at Sanheim. Look at all the ups and peaks and valleys he had. Now look what he's doing.
Right.
And even Konecny was like, when he signed before this deal, the other deal he signed where he was only making 5.5 or something a year, people hated that deal. Most of the people not in Philly, but they were like, oh, that ended up being a massive, likely good deal for the team. Like it's just not going to happen overnight. It's not NHL where their overall slowly goes up as the years go by. And I just had to look it up because I wasn't sure. I'm like, he'll turn 23 in January. 23, it's nothing. That is nothing. He's had one full season in the NHL. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't understand the angst or the ill will towards Danny Briere. If you want to tell me that people are taking the last 10 years and putting that on Briere, or on the current team and the current organization, I could understand that, but I'm not getting the disdain for Briere and the team right now. They're trying to do things the right way, I think, and I never would have thought that I would be one of the patient guys. While they're winning, it's a lot of fun to watch them win. And, Michkov's here, obviously, and surprising somebody like me who didn't think we were going to see this for a while, in terms of what he's doing on the ice. Like you can clearly see he's going to be a superstar. I didn't think that we were going to see this so soon. I'm watching guys, like I'm looking for positive signs out of guys. They don't even have to be scoring goals. It's nice when guys like Foerster and Tippett and Brink and Frost can score goals. But I'm looking for like, okay, is this guy, is he going to stick in the NHL? Can he be a top six guy? Can he be a middle six guy? Or where's his place? And I'll tell you what, if a guy for me that is still sticking out in a negative way is Joel Farabee. And he's a guy that we talked about in the summer. We wanted to see a good start from him. To me, it looks like the end of his year last year sort of carried over into this year, which is a major disappointment.
The only thing I'll say is, yes, he's got 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists in 25 games, -8. The only thing I'll say is he's been playing a little bit better of late.
Sure.
He is a little snake bitten right now. It seems like he should have scored some goals. I don't know how the puck's not going in. But at the end of the day, you're not getting it done. So I still technically agree, which is why when you talk trade with this team, Frost is always going to be in there. A guy like Risto's obviously always going to be in there. But when you look at more of our core players or younger players, I'm not looking at Foerster. I'm looking at a guy like Farabee.
Yeah. Now, Noah Cates was brought up a few times in the chat. And before we wrap up our show, I would like to talk about that entire third line. They found something there, haven't they?
Yes. So I don't understand. People see, I think because there's, again, another logjam and this is funny because we don't have centers, but there's a logjam at like third and fourth line center, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't have ones and twos. I guess Coots is okay enough 2 for now, but because we have Lawton, who could move to the wing, but yeah, we don't have enough wings, so that's not happening. Cates and Paling, he can be a fun player to watch, man. When he's moving, when Richard was up here and they were flying, like, he's a good bottom 6 center, like a guy you could, on a winning team, you have players like that. We have, and Cates can shut it down defensively as well. I know he hasn't chipped in offensively as much as the team would have liked, but it is it's you need those players. You have too many of those players, and then you on top of that, you eventually think that Coots is going to be a guy when he gets older that naturally falls into a third line role. Hopefully not any further than that. So it's like we have a lot of these guys. We should probably move somebody, but to me that feels reactionary. Not even the right word, but I feel like the return would be something if you were to make a reactionary trade. Now, if there's something else out there where you can add these pieces together, be my guest. But other than that, it's another name that I saw that it just right now didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
So I'll say this. I love that third line.
But people still want to trade. Want trades.
I think they finally. So people were complaining. They were bitching about all the line shuffling, yada yada. Dude, I'm so annoyed with it, Jack, because people just love to complain, man. But like they're bitching about the line shuffling. They figure out a third line. Noah Cates he's been getting scoring chances for the last 2-3 weeks. He's put on a line now with Tyson Foerster, who was struggling. Bobby Brink's been the most consistent player offensively out of those three. Bobby Brink's really starting to impress me again.
He shows up to play, huh?
Dude, he's got some jump, especially the last few games I was able to watch him live. He saved a goal. I think it was against New York, and he ended up having a scoring chance the other way. I was super impressed with that, man, because, yeah, the offensive stuff's there. I was one of the guys saying, I don't know if the defense will ever be there. There was a play where he flat out saved the goal and was on the other end of the ice for a premium scoring opportunity. It was ultimately stopped by Shesterkin, but holy shit, Bobby Brink, man, you really just feel good when you see a guy playing like that. He's confident, he's having fun.
He's always buzzing. He's always around the net. He does score the goal against Shesterkin with an absolute beautiful. And I know you hate them, Jim, but it was kind of a behind. It wasn't between the legs, but it was behind the back.
That was sick, though, wasn't it?
It was right on the tape.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he knew he was coming. Like, that was beautiful. But they get the games going sometimes, man. They're putting up points. Brink seems to have revitalized Foerster, which is nice, and a little bit of Cates. And for a third line, I'll take that all day long. And yeah, there's no rush to move anybody, especially those three players, because Brink's another name that typically it's almost like Hag in a third, Brink in a third, for whatever. And I had said, like, trading Brink on his own, like, what are you going to get for that? Like, you're really going to be happy with. He's much better served here, and I think he's another one of the names that pops up because they're just tired of inaction. They just want something. And you can see the guy, he's a gamer. Like, I must have typed into Twitter while watching the game that Brink came to play a couple of different games recently. Like, especially against the Rangers on a matinee game. I remember wanting a whole team to do that for about a decade. And so I really appreciate his play of late. So, yeah, I think you just let it ride. It's beautiful.
That would be a huge thing because we think we know that they have a fourth line basically figured out, and Hathaway and Paling are going to be on there. If they can, it seems like they figured out a third line, which I quite like, in Foerster, Cates, and Brink. And then obviously, you have Coots, who had 5 points in 4 games. I think before the St. Louis game, I'm not sure if he recorded a point against St. Louis, but he's starting to come on. So you have Coots and TK, and then put whoever you want on that left side. I think it's been Tippett. And then obviously Michkov's line. Things are coming together a little bit for the Flyers, and goaltending's there. Huge credit to goaltending coach Kim Dillabaugh. They have 3 serviceable netminders who I think they could put any one of those guys in goal right now. And, well, I'll stop myself a little bit short because I don't completely trust Fedotov yet, whether that's fair or not. But you could put any one of these guys in goal, and they'll give you a chance to win. They're figuring it out on defense. They have at least 7 or 8 guys that they could put in on this defense, and you'd be comfortable with. There's a lot of, I'm going to, like I started the show, there are a lot of things to feel good about watching this team right now. So the negativity and the calling for guys like Danny Briere, and, this is only the 3rd year of whatever they're building. It's kind of pissing me off a little bit because it doesn't make sense to me. If the Flyers were 2-8-2 or whatever, all right, I would understand it a little bit. They've been playing. They were 8-3-2 in November. So it's just driving me nuts, driving me crazy. It's never enough. It's never good. It's always got to be negadelf.
Yeah, and it is funny that a lot of Twitter, the most you see, is not about how they're 8-3-2 or whatever they are, and how they're winning all these overtime games. How Michkov is on a pretty elite list right now.
Yeah.
Teenagers to score overtime goals. You know the other 3 players on that list that he's tied with? Rick Nash, Ilya Kovalchuk, and Sidney Crosby. Damn, that's elite company. But we're talking about how Briere missed out on a trade.
Yeah. And so here's another thing too that I'm just going to get off my chest. There's a decent group of people out there that, the Flyers, they need to get a center for Michkov now. They're doing him a disservice. Imagine the points. He's 19 years old. Jesus Christ. Like, give him a fucking year before we start this shit. It's driving me nuts. Holy shit, man. They're going to get a center for Michkov. It's not a fucking video game. Holy shit. Sorry for cursing.
Well, it's funny that you say that because we're lucky that he's even here. Now he's supposed to be here in 3 years. He's here in 1. If he was still in Russia,
for 2 months and people are going fucking crazy, get him a center. Oh my God.
And I get that to an extent, but it's nothing that, like, if you're not ruining his development. Him coming here on its own was exactly what they need. That's just, you just take that and the season's a win. No matter what happens, the season's a win. Because otherwise his center would be Galchenyuk right now on his best day over in Russia. So I'm not worried about that right now. He's 19 years old. He just needs to stick in the NHL to learn a language, to play the game. I mean, the chemistry, I see the locker room with the whole, you saw the belt thing, right? But Fedotov gave it to Michkov. Michkov gives it to Kolosov. And everybody loves each other. They're fighting for each other. When they score an overtime goal, TK and Michkov are just bromance right in front of me. It's amazing. I love it. And it's just, this team feels, I haven't seen the locker room and this team fight for each other like this in a very long time. They really remind me of the Phillies locker room. Not to get crazy, but the beginnings of that. Something's there. That's all it's about. Just getting over here, acclimating yourself. He's still leading for Rookie of the Year, so obviously it's not that bad. So, yeah, I mean, if he can play the way he's playing at 19 years old with what he has at center, when he's older, when he's more developed and seasoned, and he does get that center, look out. Holy shit. Sky is the limit.
Yeah. I just, some of the stuff you see makes absolutely no sense. And when you see it multiple times a day, it's just like, oh my God, dude, get the mute button out, I guess. Right.
Tim,
real quick.
You don't have the patience no more. You're just done.
I don't have it in me. The stupidity. I just can't do it, man. I just don't have it. I do want to mention Jet Luchenko was invited to the Team Canada World Junior Team camp, so he'll be fighting for a roster spot there. I would assume he'd make it. He was invited over some notable 2024 picks, different positions, but a player like Beckett Seneca was not invited, and Carter Yakimchuk, I didn't see his name on the list. So players that went, I think, significantly ahead of Jet Luchenko. Where I know they're different positions, so that obviously factors in, but it's still pretty cool. That awesome. A player the Flyers, perceived reached on is, in camp for Team Canada. So big deal. Good stuff.
Excellent. You see some of the stats that Bonk and Barkey are putting out for London?
I saw Barkey had 7 points or something in his last couple games. Do you have it in front of you there?
I don't know. I know the tweet you're referring to, which is what made me think about it. I'm going to see if I can find what his stats on the season are. He's the captain, by the way. And I believe, let's see if this is the right site or a site. He's the captain of the Golden Knights, the London Knights. And I think the record's incredible. He currently has 21 games. He's got 4 goals, 24 assists. So he's got 7 points over point per game. He really doesn't score all that much. His projections are up over 84 points on the season. I don't have Bonks in front of me, was going to see if I could find the team's record. Because I know that, they're just having one of their best seasons, maybe even historically right now.
Oliver Obonk. He's not Irish, Jim.
There you go. I like the Irishman.
All right. Bonk is 6 goals, 21 points in 22 games. So, yeah, he's come on more recently. I know he was off to a slower start this year. There were people out there worried that he looked like he was regressing, but the points look like they're showing back up on the score sheet. So maybe that's not true.
At least not now. It seems to be that he's taken off. And I think Bonk's been pretty solid all year. There's been a lot of clips of him doing what he does best. How the hell do I navigate these stands?
What are you looking for?
It's just the standings, but I can't find the league.
Are you looking for the London Knights?
Yeah. I mean, you might not even be on the damn right website at this point, for Christ's sake. CHL, come on.
Maybe one of our Canadian friends in the comments can pop that up. Actually, I think I got it.
Please.
No, I do not.
Oh, Jimmy, I was banking on you. Let me see. London.
Somebody get the standings up.
I'm going to type in their record. Maybe that'll be good enough. Here we go. That should be it, right? Stupid goddamn league.
Wow.
Okay, got it. They are 26 games. They are 22-4.
22, 6, and 4?
No, they're in 26 games. They're 22-4.
Wow.
And they're in first place by only 4 points because a couple of other teams have pretty solid seasons. But I mean, only 4 regulation losses. I mean, that's damn good.
Did I see that Easton Cohen has some kind of crazy ass point streak going on? Like,
I hope so, because I drafted him on our one dynasty league.
I think I saw that he's got like a 50-game point streak or something. He's scored a point in every game this year and like the last 30, 20 games of last year, something crazy like that. I meant to text you because I know you have him. But what a pick he turned out to be. He went in like the last pick of the first round or something like that.
And Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, you mean our league or then in the NHL?
No, in real life, yeah.
Yeah, and it's Toronto, and the Toronto fan base was furious.
Yeah.
He's got in 18 games, he's got 14 goals and 11 assists for 25 points. I just can't see if it's any kind of streak. But like I look at their team, and Sam Dickinson leads with Jesus. I would have been ashamed. We just missed him by 1 spot, but 45 points in 24 games as a defenseman, 15 goals, 30 assists. Barkey is second. 4 goals, 24 assists, 28 points. Oliver Bonk is fifth, 22 games, 6 goals, 15 assists for 21 points. So, I mean, Cohen, Bonk, Dickinson, Barkey, and this guy, William Nickel, are like their top heavy part of their team, and 2 of them are Flyers. So, and one of them is a prospect for me. So I'll take that all day long.
There you go. Thanks, Brad. 54-game point streak for Easton Cohen, Jack.
54? Holy shit.
That's insane, yeah.
Shame. Oh, there you go, Vinny.
Could make sense.
Jeez. I mean, Toronto would definitely like Ristolainen.
Phil Myers is on Toronto's top pair. Was on Toronto's top pair tonight. Myers.
That's hysterical.
They need D. Speaking of D, why don't we wrap? I don't know what this had to do with anything. Why don't we wrap this one up?
I don't know what to say.
We are an hour and 19 minutes.
I was wondering what you're waiting for. Oh.
So we are going to put a bow on this show. What an awesome show tonight. The chat was really active. We know you guys, we love you guys for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. But yeah, Flyers next play Thursday night against the Florida Panthers at home. So it should be a good one. We assume Sam Ersson will be in the lineup. We'll see. For Jack, I'm Jim. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Set alerts. And make sure you drop a comment in the YouTube chats. if only just to chirp us, whatever you guys want to do. We try to get back in the comments. So make sure you leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Helps the YouTube algorithm, gets us out to more eyes and more ears. So for all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, head over to hwhockey.net. I mentioned earlier today, we put out one. It was for some Ottawa Senators rumors. And so, yeah, more to come later this week. We'll talk to you guys Thursday night after the Flyers game. See you then. Bye-bye.